It's loud.
Thanks, Keith. The June 9th, 2015 regular meeting of the Newport Beach City Council will now reconvene. Can we have the roll call, please?
The record will reflect that Councilmember Petros has an excused absence.
Mr. Harp, do we have a closed session report?
Thank you, Mayor Salas. There's no closed session report this evening.
Okay, will you please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Mayor Pro Tem Dixon, followed by the invocation by Reverend Sean Wiltshire from the Orange Coast Unitarian Universalist Church.
Please rise.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
This evening, I invite everyone into a posture of reverence that is comfortable to you. Let's begin by taking just a deep breath together. As you take deep breaths this evening, I invite you to call into your heart that which you call holy. Whatever name you give this holy presence, be it the spirit of love or community, ask that it be here in this room, present in your own heart. So we ask, holy presence, guiding presence, we ask you to lift up the best in each of us this evening, to call to our hearts and minds the compassion to hear all that needs to be said. This is no easy task, and we need you with us. Holy presence, guiding presence, give each of us strength. Give us the courage to speak our words with honesty, integrity, and kindness. Give us the patience to listen to those we disagree with, to hear their words of pain or joy. Give us the strength of character to change our minds if that is where we are called. Let our hearts and minds be open. Holy presence, guiding presence that brought us the spirit of democracy to this sacred land. Help us to remember those who have no voice, the children, the poor, the homeless, the undocumented. Help us to remember to respect all the voices, those here and those absent, those spoken and those silent, all of whom care for this beautiful city. Holy presence, guiding presence, help us to create a city of welcoming and hospitality, for then truly fruitfulness will follow. Help us to see that you are found within all hearts and within all holy places. Holy presence, guiding presence, help us to be grateful to our elected leaders who struggle with the difficult questions that have no easy answers. Grateful to the city staff who serve us, though we demand so much from them. Let us be grateful to all those who live and work here in our beautiful city, who come tonight to make it a better place for all. For each of you, we are grateful. We would not be a democracy without you. Guiding presence, holy presence, may you be with us always. Blessed be, shalom, salam, and amen.
Thank you. We have no presentations this evening. Madam Clerk.
The city provides a yellow sign-in card to assist in the preparation of the minutes. The completion of the card is not required in order to address the city council. If the optional sign-in card has been completed, it should be placed in the box provided at the podium. The City Council of Newport Beach welcomes and encourages community participation. Public comments are generally limited to 3 minutes per person to allow everyone to speak. Written comments are encouraged as well. The City Council has the discretion to extend or shorten the time limit on agenda or non-agenda items. As a courtesy, please turn cell phones off or set them in the silent mode. Now is the time for City Council announcements or matters which council members would like placed on a future agenda.
Councilman Piotr. Mayor Pro Tem Dixon.
Yes, please. Thank you, Mayor. I want to give a brief report on some activity in District 1. Last Thursday, Police Chief Johnson and I were invited to the restaurant and bar owner's second voluntary compliance meeting. I was impressed to learn of the many positive steps these operators have put in place to ensure Newport Beach is a welcoming community for businesses, residents, and tourists. I was delighted to learn of the voluntary self-regulations they have begun to implement. The establishments are working with the Alcoholic Beverage Control, ABC, to ensure their employees take a license education on alcohol and drugs, LEAD, certification class. This past month, we were told that nearly 200 employees were certified. The ABC was pleased by this voluntary effort, I understand. This is a long time in coming and significant progress for our community. The restaurant and bar owners are also working with the California Department of Consumer Affairs, the Bureau of Security and Investigative Services to receive Guard Card certifications for their security managers. The operators have also taken steps to improve their communications amongst themselves and with the police department. The peninsula attracts millions of visitors each year, and with this influx of people come various nuisance activities and crimes. Although the restaurants, bars, and taverns are a big draw for the nightlife visitors on the peninsula, they are not the only source of the calls for police service that challenge our police department. There are many other nuisance activities and property-related crimes that take place throughout the peninsula and generate calls for police service. Chief Johnson and I discussed these concerns and how the city and businesses can work together for both the success of their businesses and a safe peninsula where residents and visitors can enjoy a high quality of life. These are important first steps, and I look forward to working with the chief and the police department and the restaurant and bar owners to keep Newport Beach a safe and welcoming place for residents, businesses, and visitors. On another announcement note, I just want to give some more announcements of our library, our wonderful library. They do such great things, so I'm just going to relay to you some exciting new programs. There is the 1,000 Books Before Kindergarten, is a year-round reading program designed to help parents prepare their children for school. And this is important to help children get ready for school and to learn how to read years before they begin their formal education. And this program is underway now. Also, and that's also sponsored by the Friends of the Library, and the Newport Beach Art Exhibition this Saturday, June 13th, right out here at the Civic Center lawn, 1 to 6 p.m., and the City Arts Commission is pleased to present the arts exhibit. So it will be a wonderful event like it is every year. And one more announcement tomorrow. The Balboa Village Advisory Committee will be meeting tomorrow afternoon at 4 p.m. at Balboa Village, Explore Ocean, and there will be a report on the residential parking permit program, and it's something that's been of interest to all the residents. And a discussion, a new item, on summer outdoor dining at Balboa Village restaurants. So, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Muldoon.
Thank you. I had the pleasure of participating in the Balboa Island Parade. Never thought I'd say that. It was a lot of fun. Special thanks to all the volunteers, the Grand Marshal, and enjoyed all my colleagues, as I know they did as well. That great historical experience. I just want to take this moment to check with staff on what will be covered the next meeting.
So far, Mr. Muldoon, we have two items. One is a discussion about mooring rates, and the other is the Civic Center audit.
Perfect. Thank you.
Councilmember Duffy.
Thank you, Mayor. I forgot last council meeting to bring this up, but I had participated in a great event on the water at the Sea Scout base, and it was an achievement award. It's their annual Good Sea Scout of the Year award given to a resident of ours who I just have to say is we're super lucky to have him. His name is Tim Hogan, and he has individually created high school sailing across the United States. And Tim has been at it 30 years. And I can assure you, as a sailor myself, there was no high school sailing before Tim. Today, there are 500 high schools in the United States who participate. There is a national regatta. There's actually a Rose Bowl of high school sailing. It's actually going on this weekend that Tim with the help of his volunteers, has brought to these kids. Over 5,000 kids in high school now have throughout the United States are enjoying this sport, and many do get scholarships to college. So hats off to Tim Hogan. He's a great resident of ours, and he deserves a well done. And thank you for that.
Thank you. Councilmember Curry.
This week I had the opportunity to attend many events, often with the mayor, including the Athletic Awards Dinner sponsored by the Chamber of Commerce. We had several thousand people here for the concerts on the green on Sunday, enjoying the grass area. Happy they weren't sitting on a parking lot like some would have us do, but we had a great concert by Stone Soul. I attended Supervisor John Morlock's open house for his new district office. He's doing a great job representing our community. And I also attended the annual meeting of SPON, which has been helping and working in our community for many years. Terry Welch spoke on sustainability, a very interesting presentation. And yesterday I participated in a press conference with Congress members Rohrabacher, Sanchez, and Lowenthal, along with Councilmember Billy O'Connell from Huntington Beach, talking about the issues of oil spills on our California beaches and the use of technology and the investments we need to make in infrastructure to keep our beaches pristine. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Well, it has been a busy 2 weeks. On June the 3rd, I attended a fundraiser for the Ben Carlson statue at the Balboa Bay Resort, and they raised a significant amount of money there, and I think that that program is moving along, and it'll be going to the Arts Commission soon, and I think coming on to the City Council here, I think second meeting in this month, I think at our next meeting perhaps. Also, as Councilman Curry indicated, I attended the athletic awards and handed out certificates to athletes from Sage High School, Corona Del Mar High School, and Newport Harbor, and just a tremendous group of youth in our community, all going to great schools and participating in athletics in one form or another as they move on. Also, on June the 6th, I fired the starting gun for the Corona Del Mar 5K, 34th year in a row of the running of that event, which was a lot of fun. And Councilmember Piotr was there also, and I think he fired the gun for the women's race after mine. Air horn. Well, I pretended it was a gun. One of the real highlights, though, was also on June the 6th, was the Wooden Boat Festival at the Balboa Yacht Club. And for those of us that love boats, particularly old wooden boats, it was a real treat. I think there was probably about 30 really classic wooden boats at that show. I got to participate as one of the judges along with the harbor master and the commodore of the Balboa Yacht Club. And if you missed it, be sure and come out next year. I think it's going to be June the 4th next year. It'll be the third year of the club running the show, and really want to give thanks to the Balboa Yacht Club for sponsoring this, and particularly to Ralph Rodheim, who spent a lot of time and effort in these first 2 years to put on the Wooden Boat Show, and he's passed the baton to someone else at the Balboa Yacht Club, and I'm sure that it will continue to grow and be one of the really signature events of our community. And then on June the 7th, as Councilmember Muldoon mentioned, that was the Balboa Island Parade. And for those of you that don't know, although June 21st is the first official day of summer in Newport Beach, June the 7th, the day of the Balboa Island Parade, that's when summer officially starts, at least in our neck of the woods. And it was really a great parade this year, and I got to ride in a really cool 1941 Cadillac four-door convertible. It was beautiful. And then, as Councilmember Curry mentioned, on Sunday we had the concert on the green, and we really had an engaging Motown band that really got the crowd into the concert, and everybody seemed to really just have a terrific time, and they were doing exactly what those of us that had envisioned our Civic Center doing on that green, what we had envisioned. They were just having a terrific time to see the old people, the young kids, people of all ages dancing and just grooving to the music. It was really, it was as much fun watching the crowd as the musicians, quite frankly. And then just a reminder, on June the 20th, the Balboa Island Historic Home Tour And you can go onto the Balboa Island Improvement Association website to see how to get tickets for that. So I think there's 8 homes on the tour this year, so something not to be missed. Madam Clerk.
Public comments on consent calendar. This is the time in which council members may pull items from the consent calendar for discussion, items 1 through 20. Public comments are also invited on consent calendar. Speakers must limit comments to 3 minutes. Before speaking, please state your name for the record. If any item is removed from the consent calendar by a council member, members of the public are invited to speak on each item for up to 3 minutes per item. All matters listed under consent calendar are considered to be routine and will all be enacted by one motion in the form listed below. Council members have received detailed staff reports on each of the items recommending an action. There will be no separate discussion of these items prior to the time the City Council votes on the motion unless members of the City Council request specific items to be discussed and or removed from the consent calendar for separate action. I also want to note that amendments have been presented to council and put at the vestibule for items 5, 7, 9, and 12.
Okay, thank you. Does any member of the public wish to comment on any item on the consent calendar 1 through 20? Please come forward. Oh, my fellow judge from the Wooden Boat Show.
That's right. That was quite a boat show, too. Hey, it's a pleasure to come up here.
Can you just state your name for the record,
I'm sorry,
please?
Lieutenant Mike Jansen, Orange County Sheriff's Department, Harbor Patrol. And I'm here to address the council this evening just real quick on item 12 on the cooperative agreement between the County of Orange and the City of Newport Beach. Obviously, I would like to see us, be able to stay on longer. I know this is for a 6-month extension for right now, but what we provide, we've been providing in the past, and we'll continue to provide for the city of Newport Beach. It gives the chance of, having the sheriff's department manage the mooring agreement, and it gives the boaters a chance to come in any time of the day. We're open 24 hours, and we work regularly on assisting boaters to their moorings, and obviously keeping track and enforcing the city ordinances too. So just real quick tonight, I just wanted to come and tell you that it's important for the Sheriff's Department, the Harbor Patrol, and if it does go out for bid, we will be participating in that process. Thank you again.
Thank you. Any other comments on the consent calendar? Okay, staff, do you have any items to pull, or do you have any comments on any of the items? Well, you got to move quickly.
Sorry. Honorable Mayor and members of the council.
Make sure you go in front of the microphone, sir.
Oh, sorry.
And state your name too, please.
My name is Don Cole, C-O-L-E. At the last council meeting, you introduced and conducted the first meeting of the ordinance number 2015-13, which prohibits the operation of vessels propelled by the water above the surface of Newport Harbor, unless authorized by the city permit. At this meeting, you also adopted City Council Policy H6, which limits commercial operations to a single operator and gives the harbor resource manager or his designee the authority to issue up to one permit. I'm sure you're all familiar, hopefully you're all familiar with the permit that was issued. The Marine Activities Permit Extension was issued to Jetpack America to allow them to operate until November 22nd or until the RFP and a new permit is issued. Dean O'Malley provided an update of actions the company has recently taken to encourage working together with residents to find mutually agreeable solutions and to address their concerns. He presented details of changes to the operation to comply with the ordinance and thanked the City Council for their operation. Sounds great, but the reality is that Jetpack America continues to violate the conditions of the permit extension. According to the permit, number one, there is only one permitted jetpack with a maximum capacity of one person. Jetpack not only was observed operating 2 flyers at the same time with 2 separate jet levs, but also operating a tandem, which goes against the permit. Copies of these photos and emails were sent both to you and to Dave Kiff and Chris Miller. Number 2, the approved flight time is from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. On several days over the last 2 weeks, Jetpack continues to operate past 5 p.m. Most recently, on Saturday, June 6th, a single flyer was operated until almost 5:45, at which time a tandem operator was put in the water and operated till well after 6 o'clock. This happened again on Sunday, June 7th. Number 3, the flyers and support boats are supposed to continue moving around and rotate through the area all the way around the turning basin, no closer than 200 feet from the ends of docks, so as not to affect given location more than a short period of time. This is happening, and it appears that the group prefers to hover closer to the west end of Lido Island rather than the west end of the basin. Number 4, there continues to be close calls with other harbor users, and at times when the flyer is obviously traveling at speeds higher than 5 miles an hour. Last week, we observed a flyer almost collide with a kayaker. They were operating close enough that we heard the jetpack employee yell at the kayaker to get out of the way. A copy of a video taken on May 30th was also sent to you along with our letter. This may not be the best example, but it is also not a solitary incident. One can also hear the muffled noise from all the way across the bay, which is not the way it sounds when they are on the far side of the operating area. Let us be clear, we are not just sitting around. I'm sorry, can I have just another 30 seconds?
Yeah, if you can just wrap it up, please.
Thank you. We're not just sitting around looking for jetpack to screw up. They are in our front yard, and it is impossible not to notice and be concerned about these issues. That being said, we shouldn't have to pick up the phone or write a letter and report every incident. After sharing our concern last night at the Harbor Commission meeting regarding the compatibility of jetpack business with the potential of a temporary anchorage without increased enforcement and Harbor Patrol presence, it was suggested we continue to share these issues with the Council. The permit states that the Harbor Resource Manager, Harbor Commission, or Council has the power to impose new conditions or modify existing conditions with regards to this extended permit. This permit may also be revoked. Perhaps this is what needs to happen until Jetpack can prove that they can abide by the terms of the permit. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Any other public comments?
Good evening, City Council. My name is John Stanley. I represent Jetpack America. Jetpack America, over the past couple weeks, has made several attempts to adapt its operation in order to take into consideration both the concerns of the neighboring residents as well as the permit that was provided for us. This process is only weeks old, and so Jetpack America is taking numerous steps with training new staff and acquiring new equipment to make this process work and to make sure that Jetpack America can stay within the harbor and make sure that all residents and City Council are happy with our continued existence. As of right now, we're in the process of training our staff as well as outrigging our equipment to move around throughout the harbor. And as the weeks and coming days move on, our staff will be better trained and our equipment will be better handled to equip moving around in the turning basin. Some of the new processes, again, are only weeks old and require some fine tuning, which we are continuing to do outright throughout the summer. As of right now, as far as tandems go, we are currently allowed to operate with tandem pilots, and we are going to take into consideration all of the outlines of the permit, so we will continue to abide by those, but as of right now, tandem pilots are allowed. And again, as we move forward, we are going to take into consideration what the permit says for us to operate. So again, Jetpack America has showed its dynamic ability to operate within the harbor under the confines of the City Council and the permits, and as the weeks move on, we'll continue to do so. So please give us some time to adapt our processes, train our staff, as well as outfit our equipment to make these things possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. So, Mr. Kiff, anything that comments you want to make?
About the consent calendar as a whole, or that jetpack issue?
No, the consent calendar as a whole.
No, just to remind you, though, that as the city clerk mentioned, if the motion to approve includes those amended agenda items that she listed.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So, any member of the council want to pull any item? Councilmember Muldoon. Councilmember Duffy.
Item 12.
Item 12. Councilmember Curry.
No items to pull, but because of a stockholder conflict with AT&T, I want to recuse myself on item 9.
Councilmember Piotr.
I'd like to pull number 4 just to vote no. I'd like to, since we amended item number 5, I'd like to pull that one. I'd like to pull number 7, and I'd like to vote no on item 8A, alpha.
Okay, he can note a no vote on 4 and 8A without pulling them, can't he?
Yep.
Okay. All right.
So just 5 and 7 are the two I want to pull.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Dixon.
Yeah. Thank
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion for the consent calendar.
Mayor, excuse me, I'm sorry. I've got to recuse on item 4.
Okay.
What? Yeah, I think we'll have some discussion.
I'd recuse before.
Yeah, I think she wants to discuss 4 too, not just pull for a no vote.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Mayor, I move the balance of the consent calendar items.
Hang on a second.
sorry.
Councilmember Muldoon, did you have something?
Yeah, thank you. I just was reminded by city attorney, I have to recuse myself on item number 9 for business interest.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. What?
Recuse myself on number 9. And just for a point of clarification, Mr. Piotr wanted to lodge a vote for no on 4. Are we only voting on the process, or are we voting again?
So item number 4 is actually going to be pulled, is my understanding. But this would be the second reading of the ordinance. So after the second reading, it'd go into effect 30 days thereafter.
So is our vote the same, or are we just saying, hey, I was there? Does that make sense?
No, you're actually voting on whether to
Okay.
go forward with the ordinance.
Okay, thank you. Then I'll be voting no as well. Thank you.
Are you sufficiently confused?
Yes, but let me see. Mr. Mayor, I move the balance of the consent calendar, items 1 through 20, with the exception of items 5, 7, and 12, which have been pulled, with the following changes. Item 9, a recusal by council members Curry and Muldoon, and item 4, a recusal by council member Duffy.
Okay, this is going to get even more fun.
And pulling number 4, too. Excuse me. Yes, thank you.
Okay, do you want to start that over again, just so we get it
All
clear?
right. Mr. Mayor, I move the balance of the consent calendar, items 1 through 20, with the exception of items 4, 5, 7, and 12, which have been pulled, and with the following changes. Item 9, a recusal by council members Curry and Muldoon, and item 4, a recusal by council member Duffy.
And a no vote for item 8 alpha for me.
And this is with the amendments as submitted by staff on the items that have not been pulled.
Yes, I did not.
Yes, and I second.
Okay, is that clear? Is that clear to staff?
Yes.
Okay, please vote.
And prior to reading the vote, I'll read the ordinance title for item 6, ordinance number 2015-15, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Newport Beach approving an amendment to Title 20 of the zoning code of the Newport Beach Municipal Code to correct unintended changes to zoning regulations that were created with a comprehensive update in 2010. Councilmember Muldoon. Vote. The motion carries unanimously, 6-0.
Okay, so the first item pulled for consideration is item number 4, the second reading of the ordinance regulating and limiting vessels propelled by water above the surface of Newport Harbor. Mayor Pro Tem Dixon, do you want to speak to that?
Yes, thank you, Mayor.
Just briefly, I want to note that Councilmember Duffy will be recusing himself based on business interest. He'll be leaving.
Okay.
Thank you.
Chris, could you please clarify the gentleman who spoke concerning jetpack vessels, and could you clarify the permit? Because when we were considering this matter in public session, I do not recall that we were discussing or ever, if I ever heard the word tandem. So could you please clarify that? Because that's a new piece of information to me that I did not understand to be provided in that permit.
Yes, thank you. A tandem operator is where there's two people on one jetpack. Could be an adult and a child, or two adults, I suppose, but I would logically think it'd be somebody smaller with an adult. Staff doesn't have an issue with this tandem operation because it's essentially the same as a single rider. On the other hand, they have increased their jetpack users to two separate users. And I've since talked to Jetpack America this afternoon, and I explained to him that the intent of this interim extended permit was to keep the business model the same and not to increase its capacity or increase the use in any way. And he understood that and said that going forward, he'll keep it at one jetpack operating at all times.
Well, thank you for clarifying, because I probably did misspeak, but I'm glad you clarified the tandem. But so we're clear in the permit, because the gentleman who spoke about the permit said it was permitted to have two, or the permit. I just want to clarify, okay on tandem on one vessel, but maximum one vessel.
That is correct. And what I'll work on in the next day or so is clarifying that again in the permit language and making it crystal clear. There are some other points I'd be happy to speak to.
Yes, could you please?
The other point about operating hours, I did speak to Jetpack America, and they would keep it at 5 p.m. 10 to 5, I believe, is their summertime hours. Their wintertime, I believe, is 10 to 4. As far as keeping it 200 feet away from the shore, or pardon me, the edge of the docks, he's trying to keep it somewhere in the 300-foot neighborhood. And I reminded him that in the permit it clearly states that he must move around and not concentrate in one area. And he said yes, he will do that, and he apologized for that, for not doing that. And I think the last point that was brought up by Mr. Cole was the close call that was noted with a kayaker, and I reminded Mr. O'Malley that he needs to be extra careful with his crew and his operators, and it's not only a matter of people getting out of his way, it's of he also being mindful of other boaters in the harbor.
Thank you, Chris. And one more question concerning the ongoing enforcement. These minor infractions or unpermitted activities, I guess I would qualify it. Unless residents report on this, how will we know that the operation is according to permit? So is it up to the residents to keep us informed, as the gentleman was saying, that we have to be constantly vigilant on this?
Well, I think it's a combination of both. Certainly, resident feedback is important for us, because if you live on the water, then certainly we would appreciate your feedback. The Harbor Master, Lieutenant Jansen, was at our Harbor Commission meeting last night where Mr. Cole spoke, and we addressed this issue, or at least we spoke in brief about it. And the Harbor Master assured us that he would be happy to inform his staff of what the rules and regulations are, and I will forward a copy of the permit to him so that he can keep an eye on things and make observations and enforce if necessary, but really keeping us informed as well. So I guess a combination of Harbor Patrol and residents. Unfortunately, we're not out on the water. We don't have the water side presence that Harbor Patrol and residents would have.
Well, okay, thank you. I will be voting no on this, just because I think there's just too much opportunity for resident inconvenience and irritation, and then just the maintenance of the permit and the enforcement, and I just think it's going to be a difficult situation. So thank you, Chris. I appreciate it.
Okay, is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay, any public comments on this item? Please come forward.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Thank you for your time tonight. My name is Ryan Eastman. I'm a resident of Newport Beach. I'm also a partner in Jetpack America. We have been trying very hard over the last few weeks to adopt the new processes and going to the new location. I just want to reassure you that we're not taking this lightly, any of it. Any of the parameters involved with the permit, whether it be the distance from the shore, whether it be moving around the location and rotating, we are taking it very seriously, and we have been for the last 3 weeks. So we've been making good progress. Safety has always been a priority for us. As you look at our safety record, we're constantly noted of what they consider to be close calls. But if you look at our safety record, we've had a tremendous safety record. So I would please urge you to allow us to continue through this process and, establish a system that works well. You have set the parameters as the city, and we're more than happy to work within them. As far as the 2-pack requirements go, we understand that. We weren't clear on that, but we understand that. As Zeno Melling mentioned to Chris today, when Chris made it clear to Dean immediately said we will not continue that at all. As far as the tandem flights go, the permit was not clear on that. As soon as Chris called Dean said, of course, we will do whatever the city council requires. We're here to obey what your permits allow us to do. So once again, we're not here to try to skirt the rules. We're not trying to break the rules. We're trying to be, the best people we can be in the harbor. So while still providing our customers with a great experience. And again, as far as the safety concerns we've proven it time and time again. We go to great lengths with our employees. So we're in the process of training them. We understand the rotating through the mooring field or the anchorage field. And we'll do our very best to accommodate those, and we will not break the rules. So I just wanted to be here to reassure you guys that we do not take this lightly. We've been working very hard at it. We're only 3 weeks old in this process, but we're working very, very hard at obeying all of these rules. So I would just hope that you would take that into consideration before voting this evening. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Yeah. Any other comments? Please come forward.
Judy Cole. I would just like to point out that it is the nature of the activity to go fast, to concentrate on flying high, to spin, to dive in the water, and it is just not realistic that they are going to be able to stay within any of the guidelines and the restrictions. They've had a couple of weeks. In our opinion, the guidelines were pretty clear. They haven't been able to stay on top of it, and I just don't believe it's realistic that going forward they will either. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council members. My name is George Schroeder, and I just would like to remind you that this council and staff, you did empower a harbor commission to review this issue, to study this issue, and come back with a recommendation. I know there are politics involved and there's lobbying involved, but at the same time, I think you should trust your harbor commission. Okay, so however you decide this vote, I mean, why negate the same people you appoint and empower and trust to study an issue and come back and give you the best information? Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers on this subject? Please come forward. Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back to council. I'm going to make an amending motion to continue this to the next meeting when we can have the fullest council possible to vote on this.
Second.
Okay, any discussion on that motion?
And Mr. Salich, you mean the next regular meeting?
The next regular meeting, okay. June 23rd.
Thanks.
Okay, seeing none, please vote when the screen comes up.
Continuance.
And vote against the continuance still.
The motion is to continue the item to June 23rd.
Correct.
The motion carries 3-2 with Council Members Piotr and Mayor Pro Tem Dixon voting no.
Okay, we'll move on to the next item, which is item number 5, adoption of the Newport Beach Municipal Code, water conservation and supply level regulation. And who pulled that one? Councilman Piotr, that was yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Since we got this new revised ordinance at the dais, and it appears as though the city attorney has added a bunch of whereases, I'd love to add my own whereas, or maybe modify these. If the council's so inclined to make a political statement in this, my objection is that Governor Brown is requiring the city of Newport Beach to conserve 28% when he's requiring urban areas to conserve 6%. And it's clearly, it's a war on suburbia in favor of urban developments. And so I'd love to insert some of those words if the council is so inclined. Also, there's a cleanup here We've got a now therefore, the city council shall be and ordain as follows, and then they repeat the sentence again, so we need to get rid of that, the duplication of sentences. So I'd be prepared to offer that if the council, in fact, I'll be glad to make a motion. I'd like to modify the third paragraph, whereas the board, and then after the board, we'd insert, as ordered by Governor Brown in his war against suburban in favor of urban development. And in the next paragraph, whereas, it says, in order to meet this mandate, I would insert the word unfair in front of it. As long as we're making qualifying statements.
Okay, that was the motion. Is there a second?
Would my esteemed colleague consider changing the word war?
Sure.
And I will be supportive of it if you think of something.
Okay, and you're okay with that?
Sure, we can replace war.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from other council members? Okay, I'll open this up to public. Anybody want to comment on this item? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back, and please vote when the screen comes up.
Did we pick a word?
In his bias, how's that sound? In his bias against suburban in favor of urban development.
So this is approving the ordinance.
Is this second reading?
Yeah, so this is second reading. It'd be approving the ordinance with the suggested additional whereas clause.
That is the motion.
Okay,
With staff changes and my changes to staff changes.
We're ahead of you. Please vote when the screen comes up.
Prior to reading the vote, I'll read the ordinance title for item 5, ordinance number 2015-14, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Newport Beach, amending chapter 14.16 of the Newport Beach Municipal Code pertaining to water conservation and supply level regulations. The motion carries unanimously, 6-0.
Okay, we'll move on to item number 7, amendments to City Council Policy A6. Councilman Piotr, I think that was yours also.
It is. And my suggested changes are on Exhibit 1, open meeting policies. I know the city staff has made a couple of additional changes. My change doesn't deal with that. So the main change on this is the proposal to, if the city councilman wants to agendize something, instead of requesting it at a council meeting and then later coming back to the following council meeting and a majority then votes as to whether we actually put it on a future agenda, instead they'll be able to just request that offline or to the city manager, and then with the majority it would be agendized. And I want to change the word majority and instead replace that with 2 members. So that last sentence of that paragraph shown as added in paragraph 3 would read, at the council meeting, if 3 members of the city council wish to. And that would be my proposed modification. And I would move that we approve it as amended.
That's 2 members in total, or 2 members in addition to the council member requesting?
No, just 2 members in total.
Just for clarification, I thought you said there are 2, then 3?
I'm open to 3 if that's what the council prefers, but less than a majority.
I would second the 3rd for a Brown Act violation purposes, that 3 people would be the lower threshold.
Okay, I will change my motion to 3 council members would then have to approve it to be agendized for a future council meeting.
Second.
Okay. Any council discussion? Councilman Curry?
Well, again, this is a solution, I think, in search of a problem. I'm not sure what the issue is, but what we're going to end up doing is having a lot of issues put on for political posturing that really have no chance of passage and probably shouldn't pass, and probably have little relevance to really what we're doing here, because people want to use this as a means of performing on television. If it's a serious issue, bring it up through the process. Let's get a full staff report properly done when we know that the council is interested in having a discussion on the topic on a relevant city council issue, instead of some of the stuff that we've been doing. So I'll be voting no.
Okay. Any other council comments on this?
Mr.
Mayor? Yes.
Yeah, the purpose of the lower threshold is, yes, there is that chance that you're going to get a minority who wants to do political posturing, but in effect, what we're doing when we're requiring a majority is to come and argue the merits of whether or not it should be discussed and whether a staff report should be prepared when there's been no staff report prepared, so you really don't have a lot of the information you need to be able to discuss it. So by lowering the threshold a little bit, it allows more things to come forth, allows the benefit of staff reports before people start dealing with the merits of the issue. So I think it just, hopefully it doesn't get abused, but the intent is to facilitate more discussion on other things.
Okay. Councilmember Muldoon.
Thank you. I think 3 members prevents it from being abused, and it lowers the threshold for free speech. 3 members not only represent themselves, but they represent a significant part of the community. And if an issue wants to be discussed at length before the majority is required to vote on, I think it's appropriate, and it encourages healthy debate in the council. So I'll be supporting it.
Okay. Any other comments, council? Anyone from the public want to comment on this item? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back. Any further council comments? If not, please vote when the screen comes up.
With council members Curry and Mayor Selich voting no, the motion carries 4-2.
Okay, we'll move on to item number 12. Councilmember Duffy, this was an item you pulled.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My request would be to, on this RFP, first of all, I should be very clear that the harbor master, as he said, they've done a good job. I understand their costs have gone up, and they need to readjust, which has triggered this, I believe, event. But in doing so, I would. This happened to us before, a few years back, and I think it would be appropriate to have the Harbor Commission chime in on the RFP, if we go to an RFP with this, and so that the scope of work is apples and apples. Last time it came about that it wasn't as clear, and therefore it was confusing, and it wasn't as complete as it should be. It's not a big deal. I think they can do it quite readily. It won't take a lot of time, but they are the experts that could help staff make this recommendation on the RFP. So
do you want to make that a motion that you would recommend approval with that addition?
Yes.
Second.
Can I get some clarification on Mr. Duffield's motion? So is it your desire, Mr. Duffield, that the RFP be, the actual the way the RFP is written be reviewed by the Harbor Commission? And that would be one point. And the other, were you also interested in having the commission review the responses?
No, I think it's more or less the writing the scope of work.
Okay. I'm clear then.
And let's be clear, I just want to confirm for the record that when we talk about apples to apples, we're not talking about, for example, since we're talking about administering the mooring fields, a requirement that the administrator carry guns, which sort of limits the amount of people who can respond to it.
Well,
that's the kind of poison pill that can be put into people who are sort of aiming to a result can do when they start screwing around with the RFP.
Well, the RFP went out last time, and it was very clear that it didn't focus on the 24/7 issue, which was our big concern. And so that's all I'm trying to say, is that the Harbor Commission can come up with ideas and solutions that I believe staff could benefit from.
Well, I'm not sure that I heard the answer to the question of should they be required, for example, to carry guns.
Well, let me just offer some staff's perspective. I think where Mr. Duffield's going is reasonable to us, that Mooring administration is a little different from law enforcement. It could be done, arguably. I know I'm going on a limb here. May not have to be 24/7, especially with Marina Park active, that we will now have a visitor serving marina that someone could boat into at night in the event that Harbor Patrol or another vendor was not working. So I think if I'm clear about what Mr. Duffield wants, it's just that the Harbor Commission weighs in on the RFP and that it's firm as to what the expected scope of work is based on what the commission itself thinks is wise. And then that RFP is automatically apples to apples because everyone responds based on what's in that document. But it may not be the same service we have today.
Well, that was a question that I had, because if I recall from the staff report that you're considering a scope of service beyond what we're doing today.
That's correct. Maybe
You're
some
dealing
additional
with
sea lion mitigation and
stuff like that.
Yeah,
Okay.
jetpacks.
Well, I have in possession here, if you'd like to see, today, a sea lion jumping inside of a Tiara 36 all the way into the cockpit. It's fresh. All the way into the cockpit. Well, I guess you would shoot it, but I wouldn't shoot it. So this is property damage. Once one of these fellas, a 600-pound, gets into your boat, the property damage is intense, and there's just a myriad of other things that go on in the mooring fields that need to be addressed, and we want to make sure that we cover them as much as we can to provide the best service for the mooring holders.
Okay. Any other council comments on this one? Okay. Any public comments? Please come forward. Okay. Seeing none, bring it back. Please vote when the screen comes up.
With Councilmember Curry voting no, the motion carries 5-1.
Okay. Madam Clerk, public comments on the non-agenda items.
Public comments are invited on non-agenda items generally considered to be within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council. Speakers must limit comments to 3 minutes. Before speaking, please state your name for the record.
Okay. Anybody wish to address the council on items not on the agenda? Please come forward and state your name. Come forward, please.
Good evening, members of the City Council. I'm Arthur Jeppe. I have lived on Lido Island nearly 45 years, and I am an Episcopalian. I am a member of the Episcopal Church in Lido Village, St. James the Great, and have been worshiping there for my nearly 45 years in Newport Beach. I have never come before the City Council before in these nearly 45 years, but I do think this is an important issue to bring up tonight. I'm here to discuss the sale of the church. I'm sure you've been contacted by concerned citizens in the last couple of weeks on the subject, and this concerns the objection to the sale of the church, property and the building, and the tearing down of the building and the building of condominiums in its place. Please understand that the sale of the church was done by the Bishop of the Los Angeles Episcopal Diocese without the consent involvement of either the church congregation or the church minister. I'm here to let the City Council know that every effort is being made to resist the sale of the church at every level that we can possibly think of at this time. Should the church be sold, though, I'm also here to say that every effort will be made to resist the change of the necessary zone change to allow the church to be eliminated and have a zone change for a condo development. And this would be something that would be taking place through both the city review and the Coastal Commission review. The elimination of a long-established religious community and church, and the replacement of that by a high-density, high-traffic, high water use, condominium development makes no sense at so many levels. I appreciate the opportunity to discuss the important issue with you tonight, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good evening, City Council and Mayor. My name is Kathleen Cray, and I live in Newport Shores, West Newport. And I've always appreciated my location because I knew, depending on the traffic, I could bail down Brookhurst or I could go out Superior. Anyway, in the last 18 months, Bishop Bruno appointed our vicaress. She's an incredibly talented woman, bright. She is a designer. She has a general contractor's license. She's created this amazing space. It's beautiful. But she's also done things that I appreciate even more. Her outreach programs. I've gone down to the mission and helped the rescue mission and helped the homeless people and find it vastly rewarding. We were notified of the sale on May 17th and have been told that our last service in the facility will be on June 28th. As a growing parish established only 18 months ago, we are shocked, perplexed, and deeply sad. I appreciate being able to come and speak before you. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good evening. Pause here on that one. First of all, the boat show was
Your name,
terrific.
please?
The wooden boat show.
Your name, please.
I'm sorry, my name's Ann Parker. And I was just wondering, could the Arts Committee, so that there's no controversy about this one, could they consider possibly buying one of those beautiful wooden dories or one of those extraordinary handmade boats and put it at City Hall? Because to me that would be really nautical, really Newport Beach. But anyway, that's not why I'm here tonight.
Can we put a bunny in it?
Okay. I'm here tonight to speak about St. James the Great, along with these people here, fellow parishioners. My family has been involved with this church since 1972. This church was built in 1941. We wept when the old church was taken down, and here we are again. We need the residents to get involved to help us save this church, not because it's our church, but because it's an oasis of peace that has been a tremendous positive influence on the peninsula all these years, since 1941. There's a possibility that the church could be saved because of legal issues, such that there's a possible cloud on the title and some other, you guys are lawyers, but anyway. Many of us in the harbor area, such as Huntington Beach, Costa Mesa, as well, feel that we're at war with the developers around here. I'm not saying the change is bad or development is bad, but why this overpowering, ridiculous scenario that's going on the peninsula? I don't understand. I mean, that whole area it's underparked. Has there been a traffic study? It has some of the oldest sewers in the city, and right next to our church is the fire station on the peninsula. And because of all the health and safety issues on the peninsula with the life-saving, with the fire rescue, it seems like this warrants further consideration, and we need the help from the city. Huntington Beach just put a moratorium on this kind of development. Why can't we in Newport do something like this? The peninsula needs protection. I don't want it to be Miami Beach. Please get involved, not just about our church, but about the whole peninsula. If you like to surf, if you like to sail, get involved. We are in a drought. Why would we want to put more facilities like this? We can't get a handle on this. There's a tremendous impact on this neighborhood. This entire neighborhood is already completely underparked. We let Lido Sailing Club use this parking lot, sometimes on the weekends. City employees have been allowed to park there. Various groups during the boat show, this church let the the city use the parking lot. We just feel this needs to be saved. So please help us and get involved, and let's fight. And also, I wanted to let everyone know that Ms. Dixon, is having a town hall meeting at the old City Hall, June 15th at 6 o'clock. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good evening, Council. I'm Drew Weatherholt, a 20-year resident of the Peninsula. I'm here to thank Mayor Pro Tem Dixon for being a leader and stepping up to address the alcohol and crime issues on the Peninsula. So thank you. Adding 4 additional police officers will help address some of the alcohol and crime problems that the Peninsula continues to experience every weekend. You know, I get tired of hearing vomit mile because of the alcohol issues and crime issues. Also, thank you, Mayor Selich and Council Members Curry and Petros for supporting Mayor Pro Tem Dixon in her efforts to reduce crime. Some of the crime stats provided by Chief Johnson for the Peninsula are very concerning. Calls for police service are 4 to 5 times greater than anywhere else in Newport Beach. The Peninsula has 1 ABC license for every 95 residents compared to 1 ABC license for every 189 Newport Beach residents. The level on the Peninsula is 99% higher than the city average and 403 times higher than the Orange County average. 41% of the city's total arrests come from the Peninsula. Mind you, the Peninsula is only 13% of the population. That's nearly 1,300 arrests. 68 of the drunk in public arrests come from the Peninsula. That's 470 arrests. 68% of the alcohol-related citations come from the Peninsula. That's 797 citations. 85% of public urination citations, and this number is considered light, come from the Peninsula. 44% of violent crime comes from the Peninsula. 41% of aggravated assaults come from the Peninsula. 59% of the rapes come from the Peninsula. That is 10 rapes in a very, very small area. That's extremely disturbing. Clearly, these statistics are not acceptable for any community. Thank you also, Chief Johnson, for recognizing the crime issues and working on plans to address the issues in crime The community is very appreciative of these efforts. However, I'm very disappointed in Council Members Duffy, Muldoon, and Piotr. You have shown very little support to improve the Peninsula. I would encourage you to support the community more and not your special interest groups that do not have the interest of the city or the Peninsula. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Hey, Ed. I'm sorry. I don't.
Councilmember Muldoon.
You know,
Yeah.
yeah.
Excuse me,
Councilmember
sir.
Muldoon, go
Sir,
ahead.
I didn't catch your name.
Drew Weatherall.
Oh, yeah, Drew. You're a very vocal citizen, I understand. Just for the record, I did not vote against that line item.
Okay.
Sure, thanks.
I supported
thank you.
more police on the Peninsula.
Okay. Next speaker, George, go ahead.
That's what I was going to say, Kevin. Anyways, I was not here 2 weeks ago, but I
State
did
your
want
name.
to replay
George,
of the
state your
George
name.
Schroeder. I've lived on the 100 block of 35th Street for about 28 years, full time. So, and I don't leave town but about 4 or 5 days a year. So I'm pretty much down here on the peninsula. I see what happens, what goes on. 2 weeks ago, we had a couple of members of the public come up here and throw out some stats, and we had Drew just give some stats. Because I live here, I experience it day in, day out. I'll say that Drew's stats are pretty much correct. I mean, his stats are from the police department. 2 weeks ago, that person just takes numbers, does his own little, compiling, then he does some mumbo jumbo, then he throws out things that are absolutely absurd. And then we go on and we listen to him make remarks saying that the police chief, which is things that does not support our police chief and the findings that the police chief have come up with. I've lived down there, as I said, I've called the police at 12 o'clock at night when I've watched people being assaulted and beat up in the street. I've called police dispatch only to have them say, we only have 2 cars working right now. They cannot get there right now. There are not enough police for the crimes that we have happening. The crime rate is about 400%. I don't expect it to be the same, but it can change. It can maybe get down to 200, 220%. And the behavior will change. You know, I don't expect the drinking establishments to go away. I go to them, my friends go to them. They're not really the problem. It's the people that go there and behave a certain way after they leave. Our 4th of July isn't as much of a problem now because we changed behavior. So if we get the police enforcement down there, people will go out to the establishments. Then when they leave, they'll behave appropriately because they'll know there's enough police to cite the ones and arrest the ones who behave inappropriately. So I want to thank Muldoon for supporting more police on the peninsula. And I would like to ask Councilman Piotr to please rethink his opinion about this issue, because if you're doing anything here as you serve as a council person for the residents of Newport Beach, your highest priority should be public safety. Okay, and when we have more assaults there, aggravated assaults and rapes, to not give that your highest priority is extremely disappointing. Also, because I wasn't here two weeks ago, I'd like to touch on a budget item that was brought up, and that was the West Newport Beach Community Center. Because it's next to Newport, next to Costa Mesa, doesn't mean we should incorporate it into Costa Mesa. They have a population of 115,000 people. Do you want to send a Newport Beach navigator to every resident in Costa Mesa? They need to provide for their own residents because they use our services. Do you want to take the Mariners Branch Library that's across the street from Costa Mesa and merge it with Costa Mesa and let them dictate how we run our libraries? The residents of West Newport Beach, all the residents of Newport Beach, deserve a quality West Newport Beach Community Center, and Costa Mesa should provide for their own residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Hello, Cindy Kohler, West Newport. I want to thank Diane Dixon for taking the lead on reducing the crime on the peninsula. We are so thankful for the 4 new officers who will be assigned to address the constant negative impacts from the overconcentration of bars, the influx of our vacation visitor population, and the impact that produces, and the consistent ongoing crimes of opportunity that we face daily. For everyone at home watching, in 2008, the city had to delete 8 officers from the rolls because of budget constraints. The 4 new officers are going to be completely funded by increased parking fees, which has no impact on our budget, contrary to what a group would like you to believe. Right now, there's a social media campaign underway on Facebook, on the web, and via our Next Door website by a few with an agenda to discredit Diane Dixon and our police chief on the work they have done to promote public safety in the area. These few purport there is no need for new officers on the peninsula, that Diane Dixon and Chief Johnson are massaging the numbers and percentages around on the crimes in our area. What benefit would there be for them to do this? Anyone in West Newport understands this crucial need and is truly grateful for the added support from the city. Residents have worked tirelessly for the last 10 years with the city to reduce crime, improve our quality of life, and revitalize a truly blighted, ignored area of Newport. And we've come a long way, but there's still a long way to go. With the help of our city manager, Dave Kiff, our previous council, our PD, and our wonderful Parks and Recs department, we have changed the once out-of-control 4th of July fiasco to a family-friendly parade and festival, which has saved taxpayers hundreds of thousands of dollars in PD costs, and made the once-known war zone into a holiday where residents don't leave town and actually attend and enjoy the family festival. All this by partnering together, the residents and the city. What I find interesting at the last city council, Scott, was you were willing to ask for a spare $5 million for your district, and you were willing to gut the projects for the Newport Beach, West Newport Beach area. You were honest. You told us you wanted to gut the community center at a meeting that you had. You also told me and 3 other residents that you felt business always comes first before residents, and anybody who applies for a liquor license should be able to get one. I disagree strongly. I have a suggestion. If you are concerned about fiscal responsibility, why don't we model after the city of Pasadena? I spoke with an officer on the task force. They said they've turned the old town city of Pasadena around by doing a bid. So Scott, I would ask you to take the charge on the bid and work with our city. And what this does is it has the restaurant and bar owners pay for the services so that the taxpayers never accrue that. Pasadena has graciously offered to talk with our city concerning their model. so we can go to them if we would like. The residents of West Newport and the Lido area are very passionate about moving forward with the current momentum and hope we can look forward to continued support from this current council. Also, thank you to Diane Dixon, Tony Petros, and Dave Kiff for offering to take the plunge in our 4th of July dunk tank. And our Chief, Jay Johnson, for volunteering to lead the parade once again. All of our efforts are really changing a community for the better. It is amazing how much, when we work together, we can do. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Mr. Mayor, just a quick counter to that.
Yes, Councilmember Piotr.
You know, I definitely have strong beliefs, but I do like to have them represented properly. And I never said that businesses come before residents or that everybody that applies for liquor licenses. You know, Drew, you can leave. It's okay with me. So,
come on, Scott.
So the other thing is that the seawalls are actually in Mayor Selige's district. That's where I was fighting for money, and I was actually offering to take the CDM library in my district and postpone it a year to accomplish that. So, and you know, people have to realize that you're going to spend priorities, and I agree with what Mr. Schroeder said, that, you know, public safety is an important issue, and I take it seriously. And I was suggesting, you know, $200,000 instead of $800,000 in order to address the particular issues of the bars. So just because my solution may not agree with your solution doesn't mean I'm against public safety. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Go ahead, ma'am.
Hello, my name is Catherine Pepis. Good evening, Council. I'm an advocate for the Alzheimer's Association Orange County chapter. June is Alzheimer's and Brain Awareness Month, a time to recognize the 5.3 million people nationally and the 84,000 people here in Orange County afflicted with Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's is the most common form of dementia, and it is fatal. Currently, there is no way to prevent, cure, or slow the progression of Alzheimer's, and it is the 4th leading cause of death in Orange County. Alzheimer's is the most under-recognized disease of our time and the most expensive, costing Orange County residents over $800 million annually to care for those with dementia. The Alzheimer's Association is the world's leading voluntary health organization in Alzheimer's care, support, and research. The Orange County chapter, based in Irvine, continues to be the county's primary provider of services, education, research, and advocacy for people affected by Alzheimer's and related dementias. We provide a comprehensive array of programs and services provided at no charge to meet the myriad and the evolving needs of people with Alzheimer's disease and related disorders, their families, caregivers, and the community. Therefore, I would like to invite you to participate in Alzheimer's and Brain Awareness Month by wearing purple. Please join me in taking the Purple Pledge. Only by working together will we be able to end Alzheimer's. For more information about the Alzheimer's Association, folks may call our toll-free 24/7 helpline at 1-800-272-3900, or they may visit our website at www.alz.org/OC. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, any other comments? Please come forward.
Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council, my name is Paul Mathias, and I'm a 27-year property owner in Newport Beach. While my comments may be painful, they're not intended to be harmful. I do appreciate the fine work that you do and the work of your staff. Last month, I appeared before this body and asked the council to seek a grand jury investigation into the improper leak of a confidential memorandum to a news reporter regarding an employment matter involving an assistant city manager. This memo was prepared by the city attorney and used during closed session discussion with the council at the March 17, 2015 meeting. I opined that an investigation conducted by the city attorney or any of the 3 direct reports to the council would be seen as biased by the public because of the inherent challenges involved. The closed session discussion suggests that the entire city council had seen the document by the time of the aforementioned memo leak. This understanding further supports my contention that an internal investigation would be problematic, look to be biased, and erode public trust. This city has many challenges with respect to the administration of personnel matters, and the numerous lawsuits and costs related to the litigation and settlements, now approaching $10 million since 2009, are symptomatic of a systemic problem. The Civil Service Board, plagued by ineffective oversight, has a vacancy that presents an opportunity for this council to begin corrective action toward maintaining fidelity to the city charter and improving issues of trust. I submit that the appointment of a woman to the Civil Service Board of the 3 nominees before you is both proper and wise. The city has a gender-balanced workforce. The appointment of a woman to the board will provide proper balance and perspective to this important position. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Come forward, please. The non-agenda items.
Honorable Mayor and council members, my name is Don Cole. My wife and I have attended numerous Harbor Commission meetings over the last couple of years, and it was our assumption Nancy Gardner was, ex-councilperson Nancy Gardner was always sitting over there as a liaison between the council and the Harbor Commission. We had assumed that that was something, part of her position to be the liaison. Last night after the meeting, we asked Chris Miller about that and why there wasn't a council member acting as a liaison in her place now that she's no longer on the council. He explained that there wasn't any mandate, that was probably something she took upon herself to volunteer to do. And I realize now that that was a heck of a commitment that Nancy made to fulfill that. But I do feel that since Newport, the harbor here in Newport is the biggest asset that we have, that it is important that there possibly be a council member acting as liaison. So I would suggest maybe rather than one of you taking it on and doing it every month, maybe you rotate through the council and be able to report back, because at these Harbor Commission meetings, there's some great dialogue that goes on, not only between the council members, but also from the public. And it would just help you guys to possibly understand some of the thoughts, some of the concerns, some of the things that are going on in the harbor if you had a liaison, so you could help coordinate the communication between the 2 committees. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments on non-agenda items?
Larry Lifer, Newport Island, West Newport. I just want to echo the comments of my fellow West Newporters about the need for additional police protection in the area. And I think that police and the saving of public property and public life is very, very essential. And it is the essential thing that I think a community needs to provide to its members. West Newport has been neglected for some time, not only in police services, but it's also been neglected in terms of recreational activities. I congratulate the council for having made corrections to that. I want to support the council in the addition of 4 police officers, which is very essential. Thank you to the police chief and Diane Dixon for pushing that agenda. I think it's very essential that it be done. And I think the city council ought to unanimously recognize the needs of West Newport in these areas, both the West Newport community facility as an upcoming potential facility for us, and the 4 police officers that are being considered. Thanks very much, and thank you very much to Diane Dixon and the chief for pushing this on the agenda. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Any other public comments on non-agenda items? Okay, seeing none. Next item on the agenda is oral reports from City Council on committee activities. Councilmember Piotr?
None.
Mayor Pro Tem Dixon?
None.
Councilmember Muldoon? Councilmember Duffy? Councilmember Curry?
The Finance Committee will meet Thursday at 4 p.m.
Okay, and I have no reports. So we'll move on to public hearings. Our first public hearing is a public hearing to adopt a resolution for level 3 water supply shortage. Mr. Murdoch.
Well, good evening, Mayor and members of the council. This is an item that you heard on May 12th, 2 council meetings ago, where you adopted your intent to go to a level 3 water supply shortage. I'll save you the details unless you want me to go through exactly what the restrictions are, but remind the public that should, after the public hearing, and you do choose to adopt this resolution to go to a level 3, that you're going to start seeing things throughout the community, which are signs posted everywhere about what we're doing in center medians, reduction in watering days, as well as if folks want to know what watering days they're scheduled, they can go to our website and they'll get that information. So we have you'll start seeing an abundance of information out in the public. We'll be sending postcards and a new mailer that's getting ready to be sent out, should you adopt this, by Friday. So just want to let our viewers know that it's, they'll be hearing from us real soon. So with that, after the public hearing, I did want to bring a note to you that should you decide to approve this item, that would be from the amended resolution that you should have in front of you. It's also out in the front for item 21, and that was to add in the designation of the watering days. So that would be the resolution that you would be adopting. It's amended. So with that, unless you'd like to hear details.
Okay. Any questions from staff or comments? Councilmember Curry.
Just to be clear for the record, are we required to do this by the state of California or compelled to do this because of the regulatory framework being pursued by the state?
We're required to reduce 28% per the state's regulations. Our only tool to do that is to use our municipal code and adopt a level 3 to reduce and create regulations so we can meet those goals.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments?
Yeah, just
Councilmember Muldoon.
Well, the various organizations, will they be notified as to why we're doing this? Driven by state policy?
So the governor ordered the State Water Resources Control Board to adopt the emergency regulation, which was adopted May 15th by the Office of Administrative Law. So do they let us know why they're doing it?
No, Mr. Muldoon's asking, will our written material note that this is a direction from the state?
Yes. In fact, it's on our website now. So that's the first part we talk about is why are we doing this? So our residents are clear that we're not just doing this to conserve, but we're under mandate to meet these regulations. Sorry, I misunderstood.
Thank you. Thanks, Dave.
Okay. Any public comments on this item?
Council, my name is Mary Ann Zippy. I just have a question, several questions actually. I went into the water board to find out how we were going to be affected by this, and they told me, don't worry about it, you probably won't be affected at all. And since we're living on a 30-foot lot and we don't really have any means of reducing by 28% our particular footprint of water, and since in the past when we have had water problems, as this drought's been going on, we've been asked to reduce the consumption of water in years past, which we have done. So I guess my question is, what are we going to be required to do, and is it something that we will have a chance to comment on, or are you voting on this process right this evening? Because to me, when you look at the amount of waste that the state dumps a third of our water into San Francisco Bay to protect the Delta smelt that is dying as we speak, and in spite of all these efforts, it hasn't saved the fish. So why do we not have our city council or our city attorney get together with other city attorneys and go up to the state and fight this case in court. Why are we allowing them to turn us into victims over water they waste every single day? And I think that probably I'm not the only one that thinks this way, and I'm more than happy to do my part, but I am concerned about the fact that this is happening. And I'm also concerned about the fact that we have a lot of retired folks, and as you retire, you use more water. So if they're going to be asking people to reduce the amount of water, it's different once you retire. You use more water with two of you in the house. And I understand that the city has 8% revenue increase from October to December. And so I thought perhaps if they wanted to contribute some to this beyond what they're doing, that would be real helpful too. At any rate, I would like to have the question answered. Do we have the ability to go to court against them? And do we have it in some kind of writing what is going to be expected of residents, individual residents? Because I could see if I had a lawn that I could stop watering for a while, but I don't have a lawn. So how do we reduce, and what are we going to be expected to do?
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think there is a process to address your problem. Do you want to explain that, George?
Yes, sure. So for residents that have reduced all that you can, you don't have a lawn, there is a mechanism in place. It's called relief from compliance. We talk about that in the brochure that we'll be sending out to everybody, as well as it's on our website. It's easy to find. And so this allows customers who can't conserve that 25% to let us know. And in fact, the council empowered us to allow folks that are very low water users to have this relief for the usage part of it. On the legal end of it, that's probably an Aaron question.
Did you have any other comments,
Well,
Mr. Hart?
Potential litigation against the governor for the emergency order is an area where there probably wouldn't be much success in bringing a legal challenge to that order.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Muldoon. Your microphone.
The sound of my own voice went away. Relief to everyone else. I believe it's been adjudicated already, this challenge regarding the EPA and determining it to be, I share your frustration. It's a man-made drought, and I'd be interested in seeing if the League of Cities was going to do a lawsuit or someone was going to gather together, but I believe it's been adjudicated. Are you aware of where it's been?
Well, there have been other cases where people try to challenge similar type of orders, and those have not been successful. As far as challenging the specific order, Delta smelt, yes, I am aware of that, and you are correct. Yeah, it's not exactly the same issue because it's a new order, but the case law is fairly clear that it's not an area where challenges have been successful.
Okay. Any other public comments on this item? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back for motion. Motion here. And I'll jump at once.
I'll move it.
Okay, the item's been moved and seconded. Please vote.
The motion carries unanimously, 6-0.
Okay, next item is a public hearing, item number 22, the Balboa Theater Notice of Change of Intended Use and Sale. Staff?
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, during the budget discussions most recently, we've been discussing, in essence, what to do with the Balboa Theater. The theater was purchased back in 1998 with the use of federal funds, specifically the Community Development Block Grant funds. And in past discussions, the council expressed a desire to maybe dispose of the property because it is really an underperforming asset. It hasn't opened, obviously. And what we're doing here tonight is to have a public hearing within which the public can come and speak to this item. Basically, federal regulations require that we notify the community and we offer the opportunity for them to participate in the process, provide feedback to the council before we make that decision to formally go forward and potentially sell the property. So that's what we're doing here this evening, is just to provide a forum within which the public can comment on the potential disposition of the theater. Consider those comments. We've got a variety of recommended actions for the council to consider this evening, all in furtherance of selling the property, obviously dealing with the administrative activities with HUD, and then start planning for what we might spend that money for, that we might receive with the sale. So those are my comments. If you have any questions, I'm here. We have Clint Whited, our CDBG consultant, if there's any more technical aspects related to the block grant program. So,
Mayor Pro Tem Dixon.
Thank you, Jim and Kim. Appreciate all your hard work on this. Could you just outline for us what during this period, what will be happening, and as calls or inquiries come in about from interested parties on how to proceed?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Dixon. We, after the conclusion of tonight's hearing and with the presumption that City Council is directing staff to proceed with the sale, we will go through the necessary procedures that are also required of the city by the government code, where we issue a notice of intent to sell or lease surplus property. So that's a 60-day notice period. And also during that period, we will also put the property on the market and list it, and then we will not be taking any offers, or the council will not be able to take any offers until the conclusion of the 60-day period as required by the government code.
And the 60-day periods to allow other public agencies to express an interest.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments from council? Any public comments on this item? Okay, seeing none, I'll bring it back for a motion. Okay, there's a motion for the staff recommended action. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, please vote.
The motion carries unanimously, 6-0.
Okay. We'll move on to current business. Item number 23, approval of a service agreement with Alexander's Contract Services for water meter reading services.
So, Mr. Mayor and council members, a number of these, the next three items are kind of large dollar items. So we do have staff presentations available to you if you wanted them, but that's how I'd turn that back to you, at least on 23.
Okay. Well, I have a few questions of Mr. Murdoch. Could you, you and I have had some discussions on going to monthly reading and having some real or close to real-time data available to people to monitor their water usage. Could you kind of go over what some of those opportunities might be?
Yes, sure. Currently we read our residential meters bi-monthly, which is every other month, and there's been a concern by the community during the drought, especially when we're asking people to conserve, that they can only see their usage every 2 months. So with this option in this contract, we spend approximately $150,000 a year for a contractor to read our meters manually, bi-monthly. There are commercial accounts that we read with radio read meters now, and some that we read still monthly. However, if we wanted to increase our residential reading, stay with bi-monthly billing, but get the data monthly and perhaps provide this information to the community in another fashion, we would double the cost. So this contract has that option, which would increase our cost to about $300,000 a year. We know that customers need that information quickly. There are other ways to read meters, which comes up every time this contract comes up, and that's electronic read meters. There's a couple of ways to do that, but basically they're radio read meters. They can report in directly to a centralized unit where we have nobody out there, or a system currently like what we currently have for our commercial accounts, where we drive around in a vehicle and we pick up the radio signals. So the cost, unfortunately, to do that, well, I'll give you an example. We have a meter replacement program now where we change the manual read meters, and the cost for a meter is $35. For electronic read meter, it ranges up to around $200 to $250 per meter. So as you can see, that increases the cost quite a bit. The other thing is the installation time. So yes, we're excited about doing a radio read meter type system, but we have 19,000 residential meters to change out quickly, which would take some time to do. There are some hurdles. The radio read meters are different in size. They don't fit in all the meter boxes. It involves saw cutting sidewalks, perhaps driveways. So it adds to the cost and the time. So we're asking for, what we're thinking we could do is, if we, with this contract, we can continue on with the bi-monthly reading. We could quickly switch it to monthly if the council desires and get the data, and then use another software or another company at low cost to provide that information to the customers monthly. So it would be a software, something that you could get on your smartphone or web access, so customers can monitor the usage monthly to help them achieve those goals that we're asking them to achieve. So with that, the contract gives us some wiggle room, but we need some direction from council.
Mayor Pro Tem Dixon.
Thank you, Mayor. So just to clarify, so you're kind of doing a bifurcated type or a hybrid type system where you would still do the manual reading, but then you would make the data, the information available?
Yeah, so a couple of a phased approach possibly. So with Alexander's, they do bi-monthly residential and monthly of commercial, just for, an easy way to understand that. We could continue on with that. If council wanted to get that data to the residents sooner rather than every other month, this contract allows us to switch to monthly. We would need to come back with a budget amendment because it's twice the cost to go to monthly. The cost would be around $300,000 a year. So if you see the not to exceed, it's at 1.5, which would include a 5-year contract with them. We could go to monthly, get the data, stay with the bi-monthly billing, but then enlist another software to get the information into the customer's hands now within the next couple of months, and then move forward with an AMR, an automated meter system. It would just take some time to install that. We would do an RFP, of course, select the right vendor, a time frame, on a schedule that we could afford, and move forward in that direction.
So what you've just said, I think that it sounds like we will be advancing technology, but we'll have kind of a Band-Aid approach in the short term until we go through a process to explore the new technology that would be wireless or RFID or something like that.
Right. That was that's what the mayor and I were discussing earlier. Some solution to get some more information into the customer's hands quicker.
I've heard that the gas company is doing something similar in terms of electronic reading. Are there similar technologies, and how are they doing that? Have they implemented that in Newport Beach?
Yes. So they're approached us about, in several cities, they're using electronic read. The difference being with the gas meters, the meters are mounted on the side of a building. And so the radio works better and it can use less towers. So we thought perhaps we could, jump on the same bandwagon and say, hey, let's transmit the same meter data. When we contacted the company that transmits that meter data, it gets a little bit complicated, but our underground water meters don't have the same reception as a meter mounted on the side of the building and could require additional antennas. So it is an option. We could certainly look at that. But again, I think an RFP would flesh that out.
All right. I hate to see us add more antennas, but anyway, we'll worry about that. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, George.
So there's nothing, just so we're clear, there's nothing in this contract that's locking us into a fixed thing for 5 years, that we're going to have the flexibility to make some adaptations as we move forward here and we deal with this whole drought issue.
Right. So the contracts are not to exceed. So they only bill us for how many meters we tell them to read. If we want them to read every month, they'll bill us every month for every area. If we want them to read every other month, they'll only bill us for that. If we did phased approach and we ended up doing a couple of islands, for instance, we would simply tell them to stop reading that. If we did, at the end of the day, decided that with an RFP we wanted to switch out all the meters and we could afford to do that, which is we approximate about $8 million to do, then we could simply cancel the contract. Every contract has a provision for 7 days cancellation.
Okay. Well, I guess I just want to make sure that we're not getting ourselves in a situation like we did in the tree contract, where we have a contractor that's investing a lot of resources in what they expect to be a 5-year contract that we may be changing drastically, potentially, depending on what you come up with.
They're very clear. Actually, we've told them they also have an automated system that they would offer as well. So they would probably be a willing participant in the RFP process.
Okay, thank you. Anyone in the public want to comment on this item? Okay, seeing none, bring it back to council. Please vote when the screen comes up. Yeah, there's a motion and a second. I think you made it.
If you can get these voting boxes to hold still, that would be nice.
The motion carries unanimously, 6-0.
Okay, next item is item number 24, Water Main Master Plan Replacement, Award of Contract.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Mark Vukovic has a small little PowerPoint to present this item to you tonight, just unless you'd like to skip.
That's if we want to see it.
We could skip the PowerPoint. It's a basic construction contract for water main replacements.
Does anyone need of additional information?
Move approval of the item.
Second.
Okay, anyone from the public wish to comment? Seeing none, please vote when the screen comes up.
Those are the best.
That was a fast PowerPoint, Mark.
The motion carries unanimously, 6-0.
Next item is item number 25.
I moved the motion.
Okay, this is city insurance renewals for those that are watching. Dave, did you want to make any comments, or Terry? Just no comments on this one? Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Dixon has a question.
Thank you, Terry. Thank you, Terry. Question on, what is this called? The
Self-insured retention?
Yes.
Yes.
How is that rate determined, and is there a way that we would lower our premium if we had a higher retention deductible?
That's a very good question, and as noted in the staff report, we really didn't think that we'd be able to keep our $500,000 self-insured retention. It's generally based on claims experience, but I think our experts from Alliant, Vice Chairman Mike Simmons is here. Perhaps, Mike, you can come forward and explain briefly how the SIR is determined when you go out to the marketplace.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council. You're in a program called an insurance pool, a joint powers authority with a number of counties and about 100 cities for liability and about 200 cities for workers' compensation insurance. And you have deductibles, we call them self-insured retentions, because you basically manage by yourself the first layer of self-insurance, and they come in and insure you excess of that. So your liability self-insured retention is $500,000 per occurrence. You've had that for a number of years. Most cities of your size might have retentions as high as $2 million or $1 million, maybe most common. Your loss experience has been so good that you're able to keep that $500,000. Your question was, could you reduce that price by going higher? And yes, you can, but when you use your actuary to evaluate that, it's been determined that that's probably the most cost-effective layer for you to be at the present time. We could get you a quote for a higher one, but actuarially, you probably wouldn't save money long-term.
I would like to see, I would like to see what it would cost, just because of our experience and certain legal matters. I think it would be helpful to us, and maybe I'd like to just do the math and project this out, given that situation.
I'm sure our broker would be happy to do that, and as noted in the staff report, we continue to price out the quote until July 1, so we'll be working closely with Alliant. We can bring back that information, but it was quite a nice surprise for us that we not only were able to keep that level, but that our premium overall has a reduction. So we'll provide that information to council, but generally speaking, I think compliments to the city staff and also to our broker for keeping us in a good place where we can shop the market. And we've had years where the market has not been favorable for us, so this does permit some savings, but we'll get that number for you.
Great, very good. Thank you very much.
Diane, does that mean you're removing your second to this motion?
Yeah, I guess the question is, would you like to continue this?
Yes.
I would like to second the motion instead of Diane then, because I'd rather not continue.
Councilmember Curry made the second, with Councilmember Muldoon making the motion.
Well, I'm happy with the situation that we have here. And not all of my colleagues have had the experience of sitting through all of the closed sessions on traffic accidents and slip and falls and tree root issues and employee issues. But you sat through some of the settlements and you realize how important the $500,000 SIR is when it comes to reducing the city's liability on these issues and the taxpayers' exposure to these issues. So, Mayor Pro Tem Dixon, if you'd like, the Finance Committee, which by the way looks at this issue periodically, can agendize this and we can look at it sort of on a going forward basis. But I, for one, would be in support of going forward with this motion and getting our insurance locked up under these favorable conditions.
All right. I agree with that, and I will support that. I would, going forward, I'd like to understand the numbers a little bit better. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, anyone from the public want to comment on this item? Okay, seeing none, please vote when the screen comes up.
The motion carries unanimously, 6-0.
Okay, Madam Clerk.
Motion for reconsideration, a motion to reconsider the vote on any action taken by the City Council, either this meeting or the previous meeting, may be made only by one of the council members who voted with the prevailing side.
Any motions for reconsideration? That we're adjourned.